Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Devon Lewis-Buchanan with Inspire Youth, and you are tuned into Perspective Matters. Of course, I like to provide a great topic to start the Monday, and usually earlier in the Monday, but today I got kind of caught up, a little under the weather, as well as just handling some business as it pertains to Inspire Youth. But nonetheless, I did want to have a topic to touch on. And today, just touching on briefly on trauma or psychological trauma. This is something that I know affects every single one of us in many different facets. And even though our traumas may not be the same, and even though we may not deal with them the same, they affect everybody in the world. And one thing about psychological trauma, which is basically just a traumatic event that affects us mentally, physically, but it does have, the ability to provide us perspective. Um, now, with so many different categories to trauma and how things can be labeled as trauma, we have to know that when we paint that picture of, saying that all, when we paint the picture of trauma, we have to understand that, it looks different for each person. And, it's usually I like to go back and I like to think about, not to think about my traumas, but of course they're always kind of in the back of our minds. And, they do set the foundation for the things that we go about doing in our lifetime, or just the way that we perceive things going on in our lifetime. Um, Having a conversation with some people today, and this would be something, of course, I would like to elaborate on in the future, but just how dealing with trauma and how the effects has affected them to this day. And for me, I can just relate of being one of the first. My first memories are linked to trauma, and it's just the fact that those are the things that you remember because they somehow are embedded in your brain. And some people have different effects to trauma as well. Some people, wind up forgetting or blocking those things out from their memory. But then the same, I believe that one of the biggest things when it comes to trauma is addressing it and just finding a way to talk about it. You will realize that you are not alone. And even though it may seem as though that your situation is one, of course, it's very particular to you, and it's very unique, being that is the one it's trauma that you experience. But the side effects of trauma affect people pretty much not all the same, but in some facets and forms that are very similar. For me, my earliest trauma I would identify as being 2 years old and being hit by a car. Um, of course, this memory is not as vivid to me as it is for, my mom who was there and experienced it. But the fact that it is one of my earliest memories or recollection of memory that I can remember. And sometimes even with trauma, when we are traumatically affected, especially at a young age, we can alter our minds to believe certain things pertaining to that trauma. So in my mind, I remember that day very vividly, but I also am remembering from the standpoint of recollection of somebody else telling the story that can kind of paint this image in my head of what happened, even though I tell myself that I remember this. Another thing about traumatic events is that they alter us. They alter things about us and the way we respond to certain things. And even though that trauma that I experienced doesn't play a big role into the things that I do going forward today, that is just one form of a traumatic event that I experienced. Another form of trauma that we may experience may be not so much physical, but more so emotional. Having connections with people that are supposed to be there for us, and people that are supposed to protect us, and if they fail in that capacity, or they provide us or hurt us, or forget to provide, or lack of providing for us or protecting us, sometimes that can be linked to the way that we respond to the people that we deal with going forward in life. So trauma plays its way in our lives And it affects us in so many different ways, and it affects everybody. I believe everybody has an experience with some type of traumatic event, an event that has them to respond in a way where they have to address it. And I believe that's the key, to address it. Even if it's so suppressed, even sometimes it can be blocked out, where we don't want to even touch some of those tough subjects that we don't share with everybody. I do believe that it's a great way to finding some peace within ourselves, because we do need that. We do need the fact that our every experience plays a role in what we do going forward, and especially the ones that we remember and we identify as traumatic. So that's me lightly touching on the subject. I will have more to offer you guys, and that will be soon to come. But I do appreciate you guys staying tuned and looking and checking our site, and also keeping up with our blogs. The Inspire You store is open, available. As you can see, I do have a shirt on right now. We do have more shirts to come, but we do appreciate everybody who is out and going to support. And for those that are going to support in the future, we thank you in advance. It does help towards our mentoring goal, our mentoring mission. Every shirt that is purchased, it helps us to mentor and provide other shirts and different incentives for our kids going forward. So every bit helps, but we want to do it in a different way where you guys can support and be able to wear your support. So it is a way for you guys to feel as though you're getting something out of it as well. So we do want to thank the people who took the time to check out our site and purchase an item or purchase a shirt that goes towards us supporting mentoring. So we appreciate you guys from the bottom of our hearts. I'm Devon Lewis-Buchanan once again, and that's been Perspective Matters. Have a good one, guys.